Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I am Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams. I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System.
Today, we are going to be discussing automatic item modifications and mix in a little bit of information about displays. But first, we're going to talk about koha-US.
This video is sponsored by koha-US, your place to look for all things Koha. Whether you're just starting out with Koha, or you've been with Koha for a while, koha-US is a great place to find resources, learn new tips and techniques, or connect with other users and libraries. Koha-US provides excellent information, both original and curated from around the internet, including the terrific Every Other Day training videos. You will also find several special interest groups to connect with, as well as our general monthly meeting where we gather to talk about the latest Koha news. You should also check out the koha-US annual conference, held at various locations around the US. This is a great opportunity to meet with other users face-to-face, and build your Koha network, as well as new friendships. And of course, don't forget about the great presentations. Koha-US is also actively involved in the Koha community by contributing towards new developments. If you are interested in contributing towards Koha-US funded developments, join the Koha-US membership. Your annual membership builds the funds to sponsor new developments in the community, and as a member, you also help shape Koha-US with your membership votes, and receive a discount on the annual conference. You can also contribute towards developments through a direct donation, or by purchasing some great koha-US merchandise through our Threadless account. Visit us at koha-us.org to find out more.
All right, and just a couple of items before we get started. My background, it is May, and May is actually Gifts from the Garden month. So I thought I'd have something that was appropriate, although I feel like this is kind of a lie for me because my garden looks more like this. But I can't stand looking at stuff like this. So let's be a little bit more hopeful here in my my background. But I thought this was a better national thing to celebrate because it is also Zombie Awareness Month, and I thought I'd save people from having to look at zombies throughout the entire program.
Other than us, right?
I also wanted to mention that we are getting underway with planning for our next conference, and we have picked a theme for the 2023 conference, which is Explore the Possibilities. That's going to be exciting. The conference is going to be September 20th through the 23rd. Keep an eye on koha-us.org on the conference page for more details. We'll be actually asking for proposals for presentations, and we'll actually give some ideas when we launch the call for presentations. But this is the theme that we're working towards this year, and we'll have that soon. And hopefully we can have a schedule in the near future so people can start planning, deciding if they're going to come or not. I hope all of you will come and participate. Love seeing everybody at the conference.
I already have a room booked, and I think we even booked a flight. So go back to that picture again. I like the conference, the picture, but I was looking at it. So is that the koha-US logo on that astronaut's back?
It is.
That's cool.
This picture actually, you know, it fits with the theme in more ways than you would know, because you know, it talks about explore the possibilities. You know, we're looking at an astronaut exploring a planet, but I actually did not grab a graphic that already existed. I actually used AI and gave it some information and asked it to come up with some art. And this was one of them.
Cool.
So this is actually AI created. I added all the text and the frame and borders on it. but
And I'm
main
guessing you
graphic
added,
is it.
I'm guessing you added the koha-US logo too.
Yes.
Okay. Because if that had popped up from the AI, that would be kind of weird.
Yes. Yeah, it would be.
Weird, and maybe even a little scary. I don't know.
All right. George, have at it.
All right, so item modification by age has been around in Koha for a little while. And we have used it quite a bit. We have, well, let me show you first how to find it. Is you go to Tools. And it's right in the middle of the cataloging section, and it's a permission. It requires a permission to use it. And so at
Which, by the way, let me mention that page is going to change quite a bit in 2211. And
yes,
is that going to end up on the cataloging page?
I imagine it will. I should have thought to look and see where that'll end up. But I think all of the things that are in the cataloging tools end up on the cataloging page. So I imagine that'll be over there.
Okay.
But yeah, right now, currently you find it by going to Tools, Automatic Item Modification by Age. And these are the rules that we currently have in place here at Northeast Kansas Library System.
You got quite a few of them.
Yeah, we do. And some of these, like especially these ones that say after 1 day, these are temporary rules that I added when we were migrating from one code to another. But let me go in here and click on edit, and I'll show you just, the most basic one we have here is the makeup of any of these rules is it's going to say age in days. And so here we've got after 60 days. And the age field, currently this one says choose an age field. And if no age is set, it's items date accessioned.
Okay.
The reason that there's that it's got this default, if no age is set, then it uses items date accession, is because the original iteration of this, there was no choice. The only field option was items date accession. But actually with the last upgrade that we did, which was to 2205, they added a drop down here so you can choose pretty much any item field that has a date. Mm-hmm. So there's items date accessioned, replacement price date, date last borrowed, date last seen, damaged on, lost on, and withdrawn on. You can use all of those to create this rule. But what we have it here set up for is anytime 60 days after an item is added is basically what this rule says. And the condition here is that we have an item type called local hold to, and that's for a book that doesn't leave your library to fill requests. So the reason that this item type is here is, we have 51 different locations, and there are sometimes libraries will buy books and they want them to stay at their home library for the first 60 days that the book is new. And so we have an item type for that called local hold to. It only fills holds at the library where the item is right now. But after 60 days, the rule is that that item becomes available to any library. And so this automates the process. So if the item type is local hold to, after 60 days, it automatically becomes book.
Okay.
And so when I started here, the person that had this job before me, once a week, she would go in and run a report that said, these are all the things that say local hold to. And then she would batch change those all from local hold to book. By putting this rule in here, I don't have to do that once a week. It happens every morning, with whether I think of it or not, whether I'm working or not, it always happens. It's automatic.
So I'm assuming that local hold 2 is limited to books. You can't put videos on that item type.
Yeah, there is a separate item type for video. Local hold 1, after 30 days becomes video. And that's the rule for those, is because local hold book videos, the rule that we have consortium wide, the policy is you can only keep those at your exclusive to your library for the first 30 days. Book, the rule is 60 days. So we have a separate item type for videos. So after 30 days, anything with the local hold 1, which is video, automatically becomes video.
Okay.
But you can do more with it than that. And I have an example of that up here. Our Burlingame library has a Nintendo Switch collection, and they were the first ones to buy Nintendo Switch games, and they have a Nintendo Switch in the library. And so they wanted their Nintendo Switch games to be for their library only for the first 60 days. And so what I did is I created a rule here that's a little bit different, because it says it also starts with 60 days. And here I've got more than one condition. So if the item's home branch is Burlingame and the item collection code is Switch, then that item type will become game, which is our regular video game collection code, after 60 days. Okay. So whatever item type they call it, which we have an item type for video games, that's local hold video game. So after 60 days, those automatically become game instead of whatever they were before.
So it's neat to see that you can use multiple conditions. You're not limited to just one condition.
Yeah, to create a new rule, there's a button here that you go ahead and you click on add rule, and a box will open, and you can say, you know, if we wanted to create a rule that says after 45 days, 45 days after an item, when an item's date last seen is more than 45 days old, we can choose a field. So we could say in there, and the home branch is Nichols, and you can add multiple conditions. So we can say if
you can choose,
branch,
it looks like any field on an item.
Yeah, any item field or any biblio item field.
Okay.
I don't know that there are a lot of biblio item fields that I would want to use off the top of my head, but you can use them.
Cool.
I don't have any examples that use those though. But if we wanted to say if the item's home branch is Nichols and the item's on loan status is, or not on loan, that would be a bad one to change. If the item's not for loan is what I was thinking of. If the item's not for loan status is number 1, which in our system I think just says not for loan. Then maybe we could also say, and the item's collection code is fiction. Then we could choose another field to alter. Maybe change its replacement price to $5.99. You know, you can pick any field. You can come up with whatever crazy rule you want. Oh, and actually, we want to change items replacement price. Yeah.
So I'm seeing that the conditions have to equal something. So there isn't really anything to say if it doesn't equal or if it's greater than or less than.
Yeah.
It has to be an equals in here. And also your age field is limited to one specific age or something. You can't say if this is 60 days old and this field is, or this date is 45 days old. It has to be one.
Yeah, that is one limitation. The other limitation, the other thing that happens is, you know, if I cancel out of here, you'll see these rules in a list.
Mm-hmm.
This list is hierarchical. So the first rule gets applied first, then the rules are applied in this order. So sometimes it becomes necessary, like if you create a new rule and you want that to happen before another rule happens, you have to do this, you have to move the rules up.
Ah, okay.
Which I'm going to cancel all this because I have them in the order I have them in,
Right.
because I want them in that order. But there, you have to, if you have a rule that needs to be executed before another rule, you have to move it up the list. And it would be nice if there was a drag and drop feature.
It isn't very obvious either. I mean, I didn't even realize, oh,
Yeah,
you can do that. It doesn't scream, this is hierarchical.
yeah, and it's an improvement over the very first iteration of this. If you wanted to change the order, you had to go in and delete all the rules, create the new rule, and then reinstate all the old rules.
Wow.
So this is an improvement, just being able to move the rules up the list. Yeah, it has been a big improvement over what was there before, which was only there for like one version.
It's interesting too that there is no down. You can't.
Yeah, it's only up.
Down.
You can only
Everything's
move them
looking up.
So it does take a little bit of, if you do need to rearrange the rules, you do need to think about it a little bit. So
Yeah, it would be nice if something on this page indicated that, these happen in this order, and it would be nice if those adjustments allowed you to move things up and down rather than just up. You kind of have to think through that a little bit.
yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, there are some great improvements with what you can base the age on, and it looks like you've got a lot of things that you can do, but it would be nice if you could specify different conditions, like it doesn't equal this, or
Right.
although I could see that as becoming a very dangerous thing if you said if something didn't equal.
There's a huge potential for causing errors with this tool.
Maybe that's why they've reserved it to just this, but I mean, I can see how it would be helpful if you could look at your not for loan or your different statuses and see if it's not this, then do this.
Right. If you were able to say, like, if items not for loan equaled 1 and items missing equaled 2 or was not 2, it would be nice to have some other variables in there, but there is a huge potential for screwing things up with this tool.
Yeah.
And I've never tried it, but I can imagine this would also be an opportunity to crash your system. Like if you were to say, when an item is 1 day old, when date accession is more than 1 day in the past, change the item type on everything from one item type to another. I can totally imagine getting up in the morning and going to work and everybody calling me and saying, Koha isn't working. There seems to be something wrong.
Yeah. It would be nice if there were some safety checks.
Maybe, yeah. Some of these rules that I have here, the ones that say 1 day, a while ago, I've been in a project to change some codes so that the codes I can work with when I'm doing SQL reports are different. Like all of our locations start with a letter L and an underscore. And so I changed everything that had a children's location to L_JU. And that took me a couple of days using the batch item modifications. And then when I was done, I wasn't able to delete that existing authorized value for a while because I was working through some reports and trying to get some things changed. But I also didn't want anybody using it. So after I batch modified everything, I created this rule that said if anybody adds something new and they use the old item, the old location code, after the next morning, it's just going to change it to the new one automatically. And so I've worked through those now, and some of these don't, those old location codes don't exist anymore. And I've just left them in here because they're not hurting anything. And I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head which ones I need to keep and which ones we still have those authorized values there and which ones we don't. So
I've wanted to use automatic item modification by age for one thing in particular, and unfortunately the tool isn't quite there yet for us. One of the things that we've wanted to do is to be able to automate our new items. We basically have new items sit on the new shelf for X amount of time. But there's a couple challenges to that, in that number one, we can obviously identify how long, how old an item is, but we have no idea of how long an item has sat in a particular location, which would be helpful if we knew. So yeah, I mean, I guess we can go off of when the item
date last seen.
No, not necessarily, because that doesn't tell you how long it's lived in that shelving location.
Right.
And data ascension doesn't necessarily tell you that too, because we may have put the record in, months before we actually acquired the item. So we have that issue, and then we have the issue of, okay, well, yeah, I might be able to come up with some date that we could identify the item by and how long it's been in that location. But one of the things that we want to do is have it moved to its permanent location. Well, there's no way for it to know that, because we have no field to say, okay, this is where it's going to be permanently living, and this is where it is temporarily living. So there's no way to indicate that in these records at this time. The other problem is we have stickers that that are big cues to the staff when they're checking things in, that say, hey, this goes on the new shelf. It's a sticker, blue sticker that says new. And what would be great is if at the very least we could have after X amount of days living in that shelving location, that on check-in it would tell you this item needs to be taken out of the new location, so that they could take that sticker off and change its permanent location. That might be something that, well, no, because that information, there is a field, we talked about this, there is a field that, or a table that can keep track of something that's like an OPAC note, where patrons can make a notation about that item, and when it's checked in, it will show you that on check-in. It would have to be some field that people on check-in could see, but I don't, you're only limited to the fields that are in the item or bib item itself.
Right.
So that causes a problem. But again, we go back to the issue where it's very difficult to identify how long has that item actually sat in that location.
The way I can see using this as a tool to help with that would be, for new books, they're new, you add them to the collection and they go out on the new bookshelf and they've got their sticker on them. What I can see as a possibility is having this tool run to say anything that's more than say 3 months old, that has that new probably location is what you're using. If it has the new book location for more than a certain amount of time, then automatically change not the item location, but maybe change its status. And then what you would do is you would have a report that goes with that you could run that says these are the things that have that status, and have that status only be a status for things on the new bookshelf that need to be updated and have their stickers removed.
Right.
The problems with that would be that you want to make sure you write it in such a way that the items on loan has to be null. Otherwise, because if you change something, if you add a missing or lost status to an item when it's checked out, the borrower is going to get billed for the cost of that item. So you want to make sure it only affects items that are checked in. But that would be one way I can think of to do it. It'd be a more convoluted way of doing it. But that's exactly the reason, you know, one of our libraries, they wanted to do the same thing. And they said, what they want to do is they only want to have it run once a month instead of running every day. Because that way, on that one day, they know that they go out and grab all the books that are no longer new and pull them into the office and peel the stickers off of them.
And that's the other thing too, is, you know,
Yeah.
you could have stuff automatically happen, but you know, what would be, yeah, you could have things automatically happen, but you'd have to have some sort of a report to say, hey, this has changed. You need to pull them from that shelf and put them on this shelf.
Right.
Otherwise, there's just kind of in that old location, and then, you know, if it's automatically changing locations, you don't know where that item is now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that is an issue. So
Yeah.
you know, you would need some sort of report and have somebody actually go out and physically do something with it. You know, at the very least, we need, it would be nice to have something, you know, indicate to staff, and I think the best case scenario is a report that you run every day, so, you know, or however often that you want, to find out, okay, these are the books that need to be touched. They need to be pulled from the location. They need to have the stickers removed. They need to have their location changed and then reshelved. Because you know, automatic modification, you know, would be too easy to mess things up for this particular scenario.
Yeah. But there are other things that it's great for. The things that I mentioned, you know, where those things happen, and those books, you know, that I mentioned, they don't need to be touched.
Right. Yeah, and that's the key thing. You know, it needs to, you're needing to do things with the automatic item modification where they don't need to be touched.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, changing from one loan period to another, that's fine. You know, as long as you're not marking the book in some way to indicate that, or if it's, you know, it's not, you know, moving locations or whatever, that, you know, that's fine. But yeah, you get into a sticky mess when, you know, something about the book, if it with physical location or something physical about the book has to change along with it, then there's an issue.
For me, the biggest issue, the biggest benefit of this has been, you know, that it used to be, like I said, you know, those books, the library gets them, they're new at their library locally, you know, not filling holes in other libraries for the first 60 days. And I have a few libraries that after those things stop being local hold, they would go in and maybe slip one back in because they want to keep it at their library a little longer than the 60 days that they're allowed by policy. And when I was only doing that once a week, it was really easy for them to slip one in, and, you know, it'd be another week, or maybe if I wasn't there, maybe it'd be 2 weeks.
That's really
now it happens every day.
Yeah.
The rules are enforced automatically, and nobody has any way of getting past that. And that has been a help for me too.
So we talked about this, and let's talk about the cart briefly. There is a cart feature that surprisingly isn't in this set of rules.
Yeah. And that's I pulled it up on my system here, so that we've got over here, and it used to just be called cart to shelf, I think. And I don't remember which version it got changed, but now it's called update item location on check-in. And I've got, the only one I've got set for mine is all. Any item, when it gets checked in, it becomes cart, and then we have the cart script running so that we have it set for 24 hours. If an item has been in the cart location for 24 hours, the script runs every hour, and it just automatically 24 hours later, it stops being cart and it becomes whatever its permanent location is.
Right.
And that has actually, we started using that during the pandemic because we had these libraries that wanted to check things in, and then they were isolating them for 4 days. You know, first it was 2 days, then it was 3 days, then it was 4 days, based on different things that we were being told at the beginning of the pandemic, and what was the best amount of time to let something sit so that if there was any virus on it, it had time to die. And so that was when we turned it on, but we've left it on because the advantage of it is when staff look for something that was maybe checked in just a little while ago, they can see in the catalog that its location is cart, which means that it could be back by the circulation desk where it just got checked in, or it could be on a cart waiting to be reshelved, or it could be on the shelf. You know, it's like another clue as to where the item might be in the system. And some of our bigger libraries, it can take, 24 to 48 hours for an item to get from the check-in desk back onto the shelf. Some of our smaller libraries, it can take about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But the cart, that's an advantage of it, is it helps staff know what's there. But this isn't part of the cart feature. And there's a couple of things about cart that's different. I think there are only 2 locations that you can have. There are only 2 situations where I think an item can have a different, item's location can be different than item's permanent location. And I think that's if item's location is cart or if item's location is processing. But the thing that's weird about cart is that, well, it's a weirdness about items location and items permanent location in the database, because items location has a corresponding mark field in the 952.
Mhm.
I don't know off the top of my head which subfield it is, but items permanent location doesn't have a place in the mark record.
Mhm.
And it's not because it doesn't need one, but it's because there aren't any places left. Mark field 952 in Koha has all of the subfields 0 through 9 plus A through Z are already used up. So when the item's permanent location was created, there's no place to put that data in the mark record. So it's only a SQL field, and items location is a SQL field and a mark field.
Hmm.
So there's no way for the mark record doesn't know what an item's permanent location is. It only knows the item's location. So the way it works is when you check that thing in, items permanent location stays the same and items location updates. And then 48 hours later, Koha goes and finds the item's permanent location and pushes that back into the items location field.
Or however long you have it.
Yeah, however long you have the cron job set to run.
There are some disadvantages to cart.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the list of disadvantages of cart. Number one, you've mentioned some stuff, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. But right off the top of my head, number one, there has always been some confusion about cart because there is another feature in Koha called cart, which is completely unrelated.
The shopping cart.
Yeah. And I have always wanted them to rename this to something else. We actually rename cart in our system to recently returned. And
that's what we use too.
And, at least I would like them to change the name of it in, the Koha back end to like book cart or something like that, to make it a little bit more obvious that it's not the, the checkout cart or whatever cart that people are using on the OPAC.
Yeah.
To gather things.
I always think of it, I think it is just called cart. I always think of it as the shopping cart because that little icon is shaped like a shopping basket at the grocery store.
The other issue that comes to mind right off the bat is that, in how you set up those settings, number one, your timing on that is global, so you can't define that per library.
Yeah,
every library tends to function differently in how long, especially if it's a small library and they only have one staff member, they may not get to shelving those items back on the shelf as fast as some of your other libraries. So it's a global one setting for the timing on that. And the other thing is, you can, as far as I could see, you had two parameters to set for the what's going to be changed, and you can't specify, if I'm correct, you can't specify what library you do that for. It's for everybody.
Yeah, the interface is, you have a shelving location here on one side of the colon and the cart location here. And, this can work in a lot of different ways, but, there's blank and all, but there's no way to include a library in there. I mean, it's just shelving locations is all you can put in there.
Yeah.
So
you were talking about another limitation.
Yeah, the other big limitation I've had is that, when you check something in and that item's location becomes cart, if an item's location is cart and you check it out to somebody else before it goes back to its normal permanent location, Koha has a bunch of steps that it goes through to record that transaction, and that data gets recorded in the statistics table. And in statistics, the only locations that's recorded is items.location. So items.permanent location is not recorded in the statistics table. Now, the Koha is supposed to, and it tries when you check something out, to change that location back to its permanent location before all of that data gets recorded. But depending on the transaction, a lot of times the data that's recorded in the statistics table ends up being cart. And so if you're relying on the statistics table to get data about the location, and you've got all these things that have been checked out and they say cart, then you have no idea what that item's permanent location is, because that's something the statistics table doesn't include. And there actually is a bug in Bugzilla, bug 27663, opened by me and added onto by a few people, including you, it looks like.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if we had that item's permanent location was also part of the statistics table, or if they could fix that other issue where before that data gets recorded in statistics, if the permanent location could be updated properly before those items data gets recorded.
Right.
So,
one other issue I'm thinking of with the cart, and we'll wrap up here with this. As I said, you have an all-encompassing timing on this, and every library functions a little bit differently in how long it takes for them to get stuff back on the shelf. And the one issue has improved since the cart was last updated, is that it shows that temporary location, and it shows the permanent location in some places, but it doesn't show it in all. Like, for example,
right,
if you're doing a search for an item, if you're just looking at the search results over on the right hand side, you'll see whatever that status is. It will show you if it's been in the library for a while, it's going to show you the permanent location. But if it's something that just got checked in, it's only showing you that cart location. It doesn't show you its permanent location on there. So you have to dig a little deeper in order to find that out. And that's challenging because, you know, we have items that turn around really fast. So it'll say it was recently returned, but, you know, we know, okay, well, this is a new item. It is probably back in its home position already, but we don't know what it is until we click on it.
Right. You've got to dig a little deeper to get that permanent location information. Yeah.
So there are a few things that still need to be worked out. They need to get both of those locations displayed in more places rather than one or the other. I mean,
right.
It's funny that we're treating, well, okay, you know, cart is, you know, a physical location, but it's also considered a status. You know, it's, you know, this item recently returned, and so it may not be where it's supposed to live yet. And so it is kind of it's a hybrid of both.
Right. And I always have people that refer to cart as, you know, like I said, we call it recently returned, and they want to know about things with the recently returned status. And I usually say, well, that's a location, but let's look at it and see what we can figure out. Yeah.
And so, you know, I think because, you know, there's a couple different mindsets about it. You know, we need to display both pieces of information, not just one or the other.
Yeah, both pieces should be displayed consistently.
Yeah.
Because having half in one, half do both and half do only do one, that's confusing. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, good discussion. I hope that our review of both the automatic item modifications and the cart function are helpful to everyone. It helps you understand those a little bit better and the differences between those. And don't forget, if you want to learn more about our videos or be kept up to date on our videos, we house all our videos on YouTube, so you can link to them from our website. We keep a list of all of our videos from the koha-US website, but they live at YouTube. You can go to YouTube and it has functionality for you to subscribe, and you can be reminded when new videos come out. You can also comment and tell us which videos you like. So please check us out in both locations, and we'll see everybody again in another 2 weeks.
Yep, we'll see you all later.